ride this morning, and I've now got the bike sitting in my carport just to stimulate what it's like sitting in traffic. As you can see, the temperature is currently at 201. It seems to have stabilised around about that. Well, it pops up to 202, so it doesn't seem to be getting too much hotter than that at the moment. So 202 degrees is pretty warm for a bike sitting at idle. And now I'm going to turn the fans on, and we'll see how quickly the temperature drops down. So the fans are on now, and I'll press the stopwatch and we'll see how they go. You can see how rapidly the temperature drops when the fans come on and the forced air pushes against the cylinder head. Now you can likely hear the fans. They are pretty noisy, so you'll know whether they're on or not. Of course, you don't hear them when you're riding. You do have a little bit of noise while you're sitting at the lights if you're wanting to have them on then. So for most people with any aftermarket exhaust system, it won't be a problem, but they're loud enough to let you know that they're on or not. So here we go, we've got down to 180, so we've dropped 20 degrees in a bit over 30 seconds, and the temperature is still falling. I should also say that this bike is fitted with an oil cooler. It's a fan-assisted oil cooler, and that's been running all the time. So if you have a bike without an oil cooler, it's likely that your head temperature could even be a little bit warmer. And of course your oil temperature will be as well. So 30 degrees and dropped in a little over a minute, and the temperature is still falling. I'm focusing on cylinder head temperature because that's where the heat is generated. So once it's generated in the cylinder head, of course it's transmitted to all other parts of the motor through the oil primarily. There is a bit of heat generated from friction as well, but primarily it's the heat that's coming from the cylinder head that has been transferred via the oiling system to all parts of the motor. Of course, the hotter oil gets, the less effective it is in lubricating the parts. Temperature's continuing to drop. The rate of drop is slowing down a little bit, as we'd expect, but it's still moving fairly rapidly in the downward direction. That's a good thing. We know that cylinder head temperature is a problem because Harley, on their new models and the new touring models, have introduced liquid cooling for cylinder heads. Now that's a great solution, but that's a difficult one to retrofit. So having some cooling fans that you can bolt on and off in just minutes is a really good way of protecting your engine and lowering your cylinder head temperature. So as you can see now, we're down to 151 degrees, so we've dropped 50 degrees in 2.5 minutes. That's a fairly good outcome, and the temperature is still falling. The way I have this temperature set up, the temperature reading set up, is that there's a temperature sensor, a K-type temperature sensor, sitting below the spark plug on the rear cylinder head, and that's transmitting signals to the receiver unit that you can see now. I've chosen the rear spark plug because that's the cylinder where it gets hottest, because it's not as exposed to the airflow. Of course, the problem while you're sitting at lights or in slow-moving traffic is that you're generating heat, but you're not dispersing it through any airflow because the bike's not moving. And that's why the bike is able to generate so much heat in the cylinder head. So it's worthwhile paying attention to that area. Temperature is still falling, but you can see that the rate of fall is slowing slightly. That's to be expected as we remove a lot of the heat. With the temperature cooling is proportional to the difference in temperature between the head and the surrounding air. Now the temperature, the ambient temperature today is not particularly warm. It's around 28 degrees centigrade or Celsius, which is not a particularly hot day for Sydney. As I was riding in the city this morning, I did see the head temperature get up to 213 degrees while I was sitting in traffic. That was without the fans on. But also we've dropped now 60 degrees and a little over, well, coming up to 5 minutes now. So you can see that these fans really do work, pushing additional air against does start to pull some of the temperature out of it. And it's a really worthwhile thing to do. The fans themselves are particularly high power. They're putting out 186 cubic feet of air per minute for each fan. So that's what's being blown at the head, and the mounting plate directs the forced air directly at the centre of the cylinder head. So it's taking advantage of those air vents that go through the top of the cylinder head area, but also blowing against the pins to maximise the cooling that we're getting from this forced air. I'll stop this video shortly. I'm wanting to see if we can get down to 130 degrees. That'll represent a 70-degree drop. And then I'll turn the fans off and you'll see how rapidly the heat returns to the cylinder head. The test bike for this is a 2010 Road King. It has got some high performance parts in it. It's got a stage 4 Screaming Eagle kit in it, so it probably does run a little warmer than most stock bikes. But even so, even with a stock bike in traffic, I think we have problems with cylinder head overheating. It just gets too hot. Partly what's going on there is I think we're starting to reach the limits of what can be done with an air-cooled motor, putting out so much power and relying just on air cooling to keep the engine cool. To know if we're really going to get down to this 130 degrees. Well, we're actually now at 132 degrees. We've achieved our 70-degree drop in 7 minutes. So that's a pretty good outcome, I reckon. I'll just leave this running for a little bit longer to see if we get any further drop. See if we do actually drop it down to 130. See, we're getting close to what the natural temperature would be of this bike on idle, around about 130 degrees if it's being cooled properly on a cool day. So 131, it was 130.8 and 9. You've been very patient to continue to watch until now. There's our 130 degrees. I think the temperature will go lower than that, but I'll stop the fans now and see how quickly the temperature increases when they're off. You can see how rapidly that temperature increases now. Of course, we're on idle, so idle is the least stressful or the least heat producing situation on a motorcycle. We've got low revs and no load, so there's not a whole lot of heat being put into the motor. If we were riding hard, of course, we're going to increase the temperature much more than this. see how rapidly the temperature is increasing, a degree every couple of seconds. So it will quickly build up to a higher temperature, and if we left it run long enough, it will get back up to that 200 odd degrees that we started with. There we have 160 degrees after just a few minutes without the fans on. I could leave it run, but you can see what's going on here. You probably get the picture. Have a look at the website, coolmyharley.com.au for more information.